You've heard the final whistle, you've seen the scoreboard, but the conversation is just getting started. Welcome to the fifth quarter, where we break it all down, analyze every play, and give you the perspective that goes beyond the game.
Here's the 0-1. This is going to be a tough play. The Cubs win the race. Anderson hits it in the air to right. Back at the wall, and the White Sox win. That ball hit deep in left center field. Wise back. Makes the catch. What a play.
Game might be over, but we're not. Opinions, hot takes, and everything they didn't say on the broadcast. This is the fifth quarter. Welcome in, everybody, to the fifth quarter. I am your host, Andrew DeBruycker. Thank you so much for being with me here today as we take our little radio podcast and we go visual now here at the fifth quarter. I am a lot prepped for us today, just going over the White Sox and going over the Bears preseason news and everything like that. But first, I will address my sad thing there. I am very sad about Jordan Tyson, and I'm also a little bit of afraid. If you have been watching the news recently, you've been seeing lots of people being accosted for the number 5, and that would be because of Mr. Jaden Daniels. So the fifth quarter, wants to just say that we are 5TH, so it's not just the number 5. So we may be safe from legal action, but we're not necessarily sure on how that will all go about. But we will go ahead and move right into our kind of Sox segment, where we're going to kind of discuss this weekend series. And this weekend series was one that a lot of White Sox fans felt absolutely was needed, and that is a White Sox sweep over top of the Tigers in this weekend series. Game 1 was absolutely amazing as Miguel Vargas homered twice, and Tristan Peters and Munetaka Murakami both went deep as well. Vargas went 4 for 5, and it's his third multi-homer game for the White Sox as they extend their lead atop the AL Central to 3.5 games there. And then Peters and Braden Montgomery each had 3 hits each. Peters' 7th home run of the game tied the game 3-all in the 4th, and Murakami gave the lead to everybody. But the star kind of throughout this weekend was certainly Miguel Vargas. He had a double in Game 2, as Benintendi also had 2 hits, including the go-ahead single in the 7th inning, as the White Sox won 4-3 over the Tigers. They kind of traded runs back and forth before the White Sox wasted kind of chances to add on before Colson Montgomery's 2-out, 2-run double gave the White Sox a 3-1 lead. And then in Game 3, Murakami hit a go-ahead homer in the 7th inning that really topped it off with a 7-5 win over the Tigers on Sunday. That will help them complete the 3-game sweep. Chicago trailed 3-0 and 4-1, but scored twice in the 5th and once in the 6th to tie the game. Tyler Holton walked Sam Antonacci to start the 7th, and Murakami followed with his 28th homer of the season, put the White Sox up 6-4, and they did not look back. But you see it right there on your screens. That is the player of the weekend, the man I wanted to talk about the most. While I was putting this together, I knew he had a good series across this weekend versus the Tigers, but my goodness, this is exactly what I was looking for and what White Sox fans were looking for when they went ahead and started this weekend series against their rival Tigers to kind of create space, and boy, did he help do that. I mean, he just did absolutely phenomenally. 6 for 13, 4 runs. He had 3 homers, including a multi-home run game to help them bring it over the top. I know that it also says 3 walks there. 2 of those are regular walks, and one of those was intentional due to truly how much Miguel Vargas struck fear into the absolute hearts of the Tigers over this weekend. Batting average at .462, on-base percentage at .533, and slugged over 1308. So that's an 1,800 OPS just once again over the course of this season. You see Vargas's first homer of the game there. That was in Game 1 in the large victory. Vargas with a first 2-run shot over in the left center. And I mean, when I'm telling you that these White Sox are firing on all cylinders, and he is a huge part of it. A double in this 4-3 win, as I mentioned, with Anthony Kay on the mound, who ended up limiting the Tigers. He homered in the ninth to extend the Sox lead to 2 runs after already having, his earlier home run as well. This was a game that White Sox fans needed to win. It was a bullpen game off the stretch of many of the White Sox starters being used and arms being used consistently. It included Newcomb, Urquidy, Huascar Brazoban, Grant Taylor, and Brian Hudson, all going fantastic. An inning and a third, 2 innings, and not letting up more than 3 runs as a group, which is exactly what they needed to go into it. So the rest of the White Sox series I will talk about right now is kind of that the White Sox have won 5 of 7. They lead the AL Central by a season best 4.5 games now over the Tigers, who are 60 and 63, and also the Minnesota Twins. Jordan Hicks picked up the win for Chicago with an inning and 2/3 scoreless innings in relief, and Brian Hudson pitched the 9th for his 5th save of the season. These teams traded runs back and forth consistently, but it was the White Sox young talent that really held them in this series over the White Sox. Peters and Montgomery both had 3 hits each in Game 1, and Peters hit his 7th home run of the season, doing fantastic. Murakami finally starting to settle in and really lean into everything going on good for the White Sox. Gave the lead for. He gave the lead for the White Sox 3 batters after Peters' 7th home run with a solo shot, and Colson Montgomery kind of getting off of his sort of slow start and his sluggishness, if you will, with going ahead and hitting a triple to drive in 2 more and cap in a big 5-run inning. Sean Newcomb, Urquidy, like I said, have been huge. Sean Newcomb opened with an inning and a third hitless. Urquidy threw 3 2/3 innings of relief for the win, but he did allow 3 runs on 5 hits, but did also strike out 3. Now, to kind of preview into this next series for the White Sox, it is the biggest of all time, for the Crosstown Classic, some people are calling it, as the Chicago White Sox are in the lead in the AL Central, and the Chicago Cubs are trying their hardest to push into this next kind of area out of the NL wild card and move into things like that. The Cubs took Game 1 of the Crosstown Classic last night in extra innings. Sadly, I have to tell you, as a White Sox fan, but it was 5-5 going into the 10th inning, and Pete Crow Armstrong hit a home run off of Hagen Smith on a slider, a little out to the right plate. I've seen a lot of talk about how Hagen Smith, how could you throw that pitch to the would-be MVP and this and that. I think what gets lost in that thought process is that was the first hit that was allowed by Hagen Smith in his White Sox career. Just been totally dominant so far. Can't fault him at all for kind of letting a slider to get away from him, and PCA continuing to be on this all-time kind of tear. We will look to see what else goes on in the rest of the series. The White Sox are probably looking at what will be a bullpen game in terms of this upcoming game tonight at 7:05, and Game 3 is kind of up in the air. White Sox pitching staff has been really worn down over the course of this season, and will not have a starter announced quite yet for Game 3 versus Clay Holmes, but tonight it will be Brian Hudson on the mound to start versus Kevin Gossman in a opener sort of setting. Hope that Brian Hudson and everybody inside the actual bullpen can go ahead and give the White Sox some well-needed stability while they visit Wrigley again, as this is a huge series, as I've said. But that is all I have for the White Sox so far today. I am Andrew DeBruycker. Thank you for listening to the 5th quarter, and when we come back, we are going to go ahead and look into all of the Bears preseason and training camp news that is going on. That would include injuries, highlights, and a win that they had over the Cleveland Browns when we come back here on the 5th quarter.
We all have our journeys that we cannot shy away from. For bulls and their riders, these journeys started before they were even born.
Oh, you think this is a game? Nah, this right here, this is the NBA G League. The world's most game-recognized game league. The most groundbreaking league. Most get-that-weak-stuff-out league. The most graduated league. Welcome to the world's most G League.
NBAstore.com, the official online store of the NBA, and the world's largest selection of officially licensed NBA fan gear. With unique designs by Fanatics, Nike, and all the latest styles for every NBA team, plus one-of-a-kind products and authentic collectibles. Shop now and get today's special offer. NBAstore.com, a Fanatics experience.
Prepare to experience an adrenaline shot of raw excitement like never before. The Professional Bull Riders Teams Championship is coming to Las Vegas. The world's top bull riders are teaming up and going head-to-head for the ultimate title of champions. October 20th through 22nd at T-Mobile Arena. Get your tickets now at AXS.com. Be a part of history and witness one team walk away with it all.
Welcome back in, everybody, to the fifth quarter. I am your host, Andrew DeBruycker, and I am also a Saints fan, which is why I'm just so depressed about Jordan Tyson. So thank you so much for my production crew putting that in for me as a healthy reminder that I won't get to watch the Saints' first-round pick go ahead and participate for at least 2 months. But moving out of me and kind of staying in the vein of everything football and everything amazing here in the city of Chicago, we will talk about the Chicago Bears, who dominated their preseason Game 1 victory over the Browns 34-10. It was a mixed bag for the opposite of the Chicago team in terms of the Browns. Deshaun Watson and Shadur Sanders both kind of not doing overly that great. Watson did lead both scoring drives for the Browns to get their 10 points, but it was all Bears from the rest on there. 300 yards passing from a combined Tyson Bagent and Case Keenum doing a fantastic job. Roschon Johnson and Salvon Ahmed both absolutely looking fantastic in the run game. Ahmed only got 2 carries, but it took them both for 17 yards, and Roschon Johnson had 8 carries for 34 yards. But it was Coleman Bennett who had the rushing touchdown, on the third stringer trying to make the team, which is always a lot of fun. I think that people always talk about how preseason's, it's not good football, I don't necessarily watch it. I think it's fun to see a lot of players compete for their spots on rosters and look forward to kind of seeing all of those things. If you're interested in Bears Game 2, it is against the Bengals on the 22nd. It will be at 6 p.m. and it will be on NFL Network, wherever you find, and Fox as well. That obviously for people that are local for the fifth quarter and everything like that. But moving into players that made a name for themselves in this past game, I think the first player that I want to discuss and the first player that I want to put some shine on is Caden Davis, Bears wide receiver Caden Davis. Now, Caden Davis, if you've been following along with Bears training camp on a daily basis, you know Davis has been a routine standout. Whatever we see in practice doesn't always translate to live game action, so we need to see it from Davis in preseason. A 41-yard catch was the Bears' second longest gain of the contest, and hauled in a nice back shoulder throw from Tyson Bagent. He nearly crossed the 100-yard mark and scored a touchdown later in the game, but couldn't reel in a low throw in the end zone. Most importantly for Davis, had a better showing than both Scotty Miller and Maurice Alexander, who were kind of the top guys looking forward. And then you are seeing the highlight right now of the other man I wanted to mention, and that is Jamry Chroma. There's no doubt that head coach Ben Johnson took notice of him too, saying that you see it in the springtime, the new techniques we're coaching, and with it, he's flashing. If you wonder if he turns it on, Johnson said of Chroma, in a game like this, you see the get off, you see kind of the relentlessness, and you feel his pressure every snap. The D linemen were hooting and hollering for him because you see him all the time making plays. He's such a hard worker who's been working for the program for a minute, so seeing him have success on the field is amazing. And you see it right there, 6 tackles, 2 sacks, and 3 tackles for loss. He even had a pass defended, which is fantastic from a defensive line that could certainly use help. And Chroma has been a regular on the practice squad since 2024 for the Bears, but has never gotten into a regular season game. But safe to say that he helped his cause for a roster spot in a big way today. But then I kind of want to drag it back to Mr. Caden Davis, who is also there. That is 4 receptions for 88 yards. Definitely take Davis's candidacy for a roster spot, or at least a practice spot, very seriously after this preseason week 1 showing. We will have to see exactly what goes on with him for the rest of this preseason. But for game 1, doing a lot to absolutely cement himself above Scotty Miller and Maurice Alexander, who were kind of looked at going into this preseason as the top competitors for what would be that wide receiver 6 spot on the Chicago Bears, assuming that there is a wide receiver 6 spot. But also, the man pictured there, holding the ball, absolutely celebrating, that's defensive back Beanie Bishop, who had 2 interceptions and 2 tackles, 3 passes defended. Bishop was signed last week with the Bears, dealing with countless injuries in the secondary, including Javarius Davis, Kobe Bryant, some of whom are long-tenured players, and some of whom are other practice squad players that have been revealed in the back. Bishop had 2 interceptions in the contest, and they were both gift wrapped to him on bad throws, but he still reeled them in and reeled off 55 yards in his 2 returns. Bishop also filled up the stat sheet, like I said earlier, with 2 tackles and 3 passes defended. Unfortunately for him, a 3-game suspension that he is currently serving into the regular season is badly going to hurt his 53-man roster chances, but if he can keep it up, and especially with the injuries in the secondary mounting, perhaps he can at least find his way on the practice squad. And kind of over to those injuries that I mentioned, that would be, as Bears fans, don't want to hear more injury news, but Kyle Monangai left practice with hyperextension in his knee. He seems to have avoided a huge knee injury, as the MRI revealed positive information about the structure of the knee after he left practice the other day. And the offensive line is getting more and more healthy, with Ozzie Trapilo being activated off of the injured list after recovering from a torn patellar tendon in the wildcard win against the Packers last postseason. So those 2 things really helping the Bears' kind of injury woes. You see an offensive lineman getting back into it and giving the Bears some much-needed depth, and they definitely, a lot of Bears fans have kind of developed this cult-like following behind Kyle Monangai, so happy to see that he avoided any overall injuries and problems in that sort of section. But thank you so much for tuning into the 5th quarter today. Thank you so much for watching and listening to me yammer on about our Chicago White Sox and our Chicago Bears, including the Chicago White Sox sweep, the Bears' different practice problems, different injuries all over the place, and everything in between. When we come back tomorrow, we will be talking more Cubs, more White Sox, and everything else Chicago sports here on the Fifth Quarter.